Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine and an old dirt road. Are you ready to go? Hey, thanks everybody for joining us today on the Live Music Nation podcast. I'm your host, Jake Gill. Today we're Daren Dortin, Ozark Highlands Theater. Daren, thanks for joining us.
Indeed. Good to be here, buddy. Thanks
Daren,
for the
you guys
invite.
kind of have a unique situation, but let's start with you. Where'd you grow up and how did you get a career transformation to the Highlands Theater?
Sure. So I spent a lot of time, was born in Ohio, moved to Memphis, Tennessee in the early 90s. And I was, among other things, a video producer, produced a program called Beale Street Caravan on public radio, which still airs today. And I was also kind of a for-hire drummer and musician there. Some folks may have heard of Jimbo Mathis, who was with the Squirrel Nut Zippers, or Alvin Youngblood Hart, two great roots blues style musicians.
Well, baby, I'm on it with a bottle of wine and an old dirt road. Are you ready to go?
I got a little weary about being on the road. Anybody who does that knows it can age you pretty quickly. And so, yes, and I had bought some property here in Mountain View around that same time, and the wind just sort of blew me in this direction. I moved here without a job or a plan. The music director's position came open. It was kind of in the cards, and I've been here since.
Oh man, fantastic! Well, you're in the heart of music country for sure. As it goes through there, tell us about your theater. How did it get to start, and what's it look like today?
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. This is a state park, so we're unique, I think, among state parks that we have 1,000-seat indoor venue. I haven't done all my research on what other state parks offer, but suffice to say, if there are another one or two, I'd be surprised.
Yeah.
The venue was built in 1973. The genesis for it was a gentleman called Jimmy Driftwood, who folks may remember wrote a song called "The Battle of New Orleans," among others, that were really popular. "Tennessee Stud" was another song some folks might be familiar with. He was from Stone County here in Mountain View, and was real active as a teacher and in the music scene. He helped produce a folk festival here in the early 60s. He wanted to bring some sort of economic development to Stone County, to Mountain View. It was a very, very rural area back then, still is by all standards today. From my understanding, there weren't even a lot of paved roads that were in this part of the county back then. He convinced folks, as he was good at doing, to open up a state park that was based on traditional Ozark music and culture. And that's the short story, the genesis and how the Ozark Folk Center was started.
Man.
Again, it was built in 73, so we'll be celebrating 50 years of great music and Ozark culture here next year.
Fantastic. What type of performances does your venue offer?
It runs the gamut. Traditionally, and when I say traditionally, probably the first 30 to 40 years of operation here, it was almost exclusively local and regional performers, and which is unique.
Yeah.
And it really focused on the musicians, the sound and the style of this particular region, which was a lot of banjo and fiddle music. A cappella ballads as well are popular in this region. And as the years went on, because of the size of the venue, it's 1,000-seat indoor venue, it's good quality acoustics, reasonably good sound system. Back in the day, they started to bring in what they termed celebrity concerts. So like somebody like Marty Stewart would come and do a show, or things like that. So it started to expand. This was a little bit prior to my tenure here. In the past 12 years since I've been here, not only have we continued to feature local musicians, but also a wide variety of touring bands, I guess the popular term would be more Americana or folk acts,
Mm-hmm.
from all different sizes, budget ranges, and things like that. So it's grown to include more what we call music from the Ozarks and beyond. That's
Okay.
sort of our
All right.
tagline.
Where does your audience come from? Is it tourist or is it local?
That's a good question. So it is when the park was originally founded, it was almost 100% local, and it was the place to be. And of course, you have to remember this was 70s, early 80s.
Right.
Times have changed. Obviously, entertainment options are a lot different and varied these days. Currently, yes, most of our clientele is tourists, and we see that from kind of a 5-state area: Texas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Louisiana. Those are the big draws for us. And really, honestly, Texas and Louisiana are the two biggest states that folks travel from to come here.
Yeah, I got you. What's your closest metropolitan area?
Little Rock.
Okay.
Little Rock. And Memphis is about 3 hours. So, when we're booking acts, a lot of times especially for what I would call, let's say, an act that's under $10,000 and wouldn't necessarily be playing Memphis or Little Rock or something like that. We can work as an anchor gig for them, and they can build a tour around that. With larger groups that will play those cities and those venues, we try to keep at least a 2.5 to 3 hour drive radius as a blackout.
Yeah, no, that's great. What's your closest small town?
Closest big small town to us would probably be Mountain Home.
Okay.
Which people always confuse Mountain View and Mountain Home. It's easy to do, as you can imagine by the names. That's about an hour north of us, closely situated to the Missouri border. So that's the larger town. For instance, we're in a dry county here. So,
yep.
You want to go up and get a meal, maybe pick up a little beer to put in the fridge for the weekend, go bowling, et cetera, et cetera. That Mountain Home is where we go.
Okay. All right. Very good. And you said, to your knowledge, there's probably 2 or 3 other.
That's a total guess. As far as a state park.
I've never heard of it. So that's
me
why.
neither.
Yeah,
me neither. I mean, there may be one. If there is, I'm not sure. I know there are other state governments that do similar programming to what we do. So in addition to the theater, we have a program called Ozark Highlands Radio that's syndicated on about 150 public and community stations throughout the U.S., of course, available as a podcast, Ozark Highlands Radio. A parallel to that, or parallels to that, the closest thing would be Mountain Stage in West Virginia. So they have a syndicated radio program. They're state funded. I can't remember the venue they use, but that's a parallel in regard to what we do. It's not truly a state park, however, but it is a state-run venue program and similar. So Mountain Stage, and they've been at it for a long time. We unapologetically, along with Beale Street Caravan, I mentioned another program I produced, unapologetically, copied that format because it's so good.
Where does your funding come from? Ticket sales, or how does that work for you guys?
Yeah, so 2 places. Of course, we get money from the state. There's an 8-cent sales tax that was passed to fund state parks and our venue and other ones. There are 52 state parks here in Arkansas. So the majority of our funding comes from the state of Arkansas. We do have other sponsors that we work with locally and regionally, statewide. Stone Bank is one locally that provides some sponsorship. Arkansas Arts Council. and then some other local businesses step up to help fill in the occasional gap if you need a few extra dollars.
Man, that's so cool that you guys are able to be a part of that. What well, let's have some fun for a second.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this question. As a music man, you've seen and heard it all. What's the best show you've ever seen in your entire life?
Well, the couple come to mind. I mean,
Good.
as far as we've had here at the park.
I mean, the one
Taj Mahal.
Yeah, the one that you've seen in person anywhere in the world. What was your most favorite show?
One that always sticks back in my memory was maybe the early 90s.
Okay.
When I lived in Memphis, I saw Sade in concert, and it blew my mind.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
So you could bring any act, dead or alive, to the Ozark Highlands Theater. Who would you bring, Daren?
Hank Williams Sr.
Ooh. You think you could get him there sober?
Right.
No, I'm kidding.
No, right?
Lord,
no,
Hank
Williams, I think, is really the perfect blend of folk, country, and everything. As far as for this venue goes.
No, exactly. Yeah, you would satisfy every customer for sure.
Yes. Yeah, I'd love to have Hank Sr. here, 100%.
That's fantastic. Awesome. Daren, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it and giving us some insight. How do people find out more about Ozark Highlands Theater and what you have going on at the park?
You bet. It's real easy to do. So type in Ozark Folk Center State Park to your Google machine, or type in Ozark Highlands Radio. Information will come up about the radio program and the podcast, and also the park. Our season here runs April through October.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You bet, Jake. Appreciate it, buddy.
Well, baby, I'm on